Real power doesn't dominate, it holds. You think power means control, that you need to push harder, speak louder, stand taller. But here's the truth. The person trying to dominate isn't leading. They're scrambling for a frame they already lost. Because real power doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't chase attention. It doesn't collapse into noise. It holds. You don't notice it at first. They don't say much. They don't try to convince. They don't compete. But somehow, the room adjusts around them. That's passive power. Not passive as in weak. Passive as in immovable. No demand, no performance, no manipulation. Just presence so clean that anything chaotic either settles down or leaves. You've been taught to influence by taking up space, but passive power creates gravity by leaving space untouched. It's not about pressure. It's about command that doesn't flinch when tested. And that kind of power, you don't earn it. You become it. Let's break it open. Power isn't control, it's containment. Most people confuse control with power. They think leading means managing. They think influence means dominating. They think holding frame means pushing harder. But here's the truth. Power isn't about control. It's about containment. Control is external. It reaches, grabs, forces. It needs resistance to feel strong. Containment is internal. It holds, it absorbs, it remains. It doesn't need to move, because it knows where it stands. The one who controls is constantly adjusting others. The one who contains doesn't need to, because their presence regulates the space around them. Containment isn't silence out of fear. It's stillness by design. Not because you don't know what to say, but because you know you don't need to say it. Not because you're passive, but because your nervous system isn't pulled into every storm. True power isn't loud. It's still. It's centered. It absorbs pressure. It holds. It doesn't seek control. It sets tone. And tone, when consistent, becomes leadership. You don't need to dominate people when you can stay calm longer than their chaos can survive. You don't need to convince anyone when your stillness makes their nervous system feel either safe or exposed. And the moment they feel that contrast, they recalibrate. Not because you pushed, but because you didn't flinch. That's containment. That's power. Let's break down what it looks like in practice. Next. Signs you have passive power, even if you don't realize it. You think power needs to be expressed, but real power is often quiet. It doesn't raise its hand. It holds its posture. And if you've developed it, you'll see the signs. 1. People look at you before speaking. They sense the weight of your presence even when you're not saying much. You don't interrupt, but they still check in with your energy before continuing. That's not dominance. That's gravitational influence. 2. You make others feel their own nervous system. You stay calm, and suddenly they feel loud. You hold eye contact, and they shift posture. You don't judge them, but your stillness exposes their movement. 3. People seek your reaction, but you don't give it. You withhold commentary. You pause instead of respond. And your silence makes them see themselves, more than your advice ever could. 4. You don't need to speak often, but when you do, people reset around it. One sentence, one tone shift, and the room adjusts. Not because you demanded, but because you delivered from a place of total internal control. 5. When you walk away, things feel different. You don't exit with drama. You exit with precision. And people feel the vacuum because the one who grounded the room just left. Not because you were loud, but because your presence was anchoring everything silently. This is passive power, not the ability to control people, but the ability to hold such stability that others move in response to your stillness. Let's make that structure tactical next. Nervous system. Stability creates psychological gravity. You think power is what you say, or how you act, or what you project. But power isn't projected, it's absorbed through nervous system resonance. Every space you enter feels your system before it hears your voice. Your stillness sends a stronger signal than your speech ever could. Why? Because your nervous system is either emitting clarity or requesting validation. And people can feel the difference. You walk in calm, they adjust. You stay quiet through chaos, they recalibrate. You hold your posture under pressure, they anchor to it. This isn't magic, it's biology. The most regulated system always leads the room, not by demand, but by default. In a world where everyone reacts, the one who stays still becomes the gravitational center. A gravity field, a stable signal that unsettled systems subconsciously trust or fear. If your system is grounded, you don't need tactics. You don't need persuasion. You don't need to manage perception. Your energy speaks for you, and it says, I don't need anything from you. But you'll move anyway. This is why containment matters, not to appear powerful, but to stop broadcasting chaos. Every flinch, fidget, overreaction leaks signal. Every moment of stillness builds weight. And eventually, people respond less to your words and more to your silence. Because real power doesn't chase movement. It becomes the point others adjust to. Let's make that usable, step by step. Passive power protocol. 3 tactical steps to hold frame. Without dominating, passive power isn't soft. It's sharp, not loud, but precise. It doesn't ask for attention. It removes the need for it. Here's how cold mind trains it. 1. Still the system. Before you can hold presence, you have to stop leaking signal. That means no unnecessary movement, no filler words, no subtle checking for validation, no fidgeting, explaining, adjusting. Stand still. Sit still. Breathe slower than the room. Train your body to stop reacting so your energy starts speaking. You don't build presence by performing. You build it by neutralizing reactivity. 2. Hold the frame. Once your system is still, hold the internal structure you've chosen, no matter what enters. Someone interrupts you. Don't escalate. Don't shrink. Someone disagrees. Don't over-justify. Don't defend. You don't push back. You don't cave. You hold. Let them test the edges. But don't step out of your center. True influence doesn't come from pushing. It comes from not moving when pushed. 3. Let the room adapt. This is the part most people miss. Once you're centered, don't try to fix the space. Don't try to manage others. Don't force the outcome. Just stay in your nervous system. The longer you stay grounded, the more the room shifts. They'll lower their voice. They'll slow their words. They'll mirror your energy. Not because you dominated, but because you never moved. This is passive power. Still the system, hold the frame. Let the space respond, not with effort, with gravity. Let's close this loop. Final message. The strongest person in the room doesn't move, and everyone else feels it. You've seen them. They don't speak first. They don't interrupt. They don't need to explain themselves. But the room orbits around them. People adjust their tone, their posture, their pace. Why? Because this person didn't move. Not emotionally, not energetically, not psychologically. And that stillness disrupted the script. They didn't try to lead. They just refused to perform. They didn't try to dominate. They just held their frame so precisely that the environment recalibrated. That's passive power. Not silence as defense, but silence as design. You don't need to be louder. You need to stop flinching. You don't need more control. You need less reactivity. Because the strongest person in the room doesn't speak more. They move less. Stillness became gravity. Not because you moved, but because you didn't. In the next video, we'll go deeper into energy sovereignty. How to hold your emotional space without walls, withdrawal, or burnout. Subscribe. Stop reacting. Hold your stillness. Let them feel it. Power. Quiet. Chosen. Unmoved.